Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Getting to Know You. This week we have Bernadette Davel, longtime St. Catherine's parishioner, and I'm pretty sure keeps that parish going in very many ways. would you agree with that, Bernadette?
I'm involved in a lot of things, but so many people at St. Catherine's are involved. We all keep it going.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I witnessed a conversation a few weeks ago about a bunch of parishioners after a formation session said, I'm going to go get my mop from home. We're going to mop the hall floor. Do you remember that? I think you were part of that conversation.
Yep.
Yeah. That's just
We had 35 people on Saturday cleaning up. 35 people
wow.
were there Saturday morning to do the inside and outside cleanup.
That's amazing.
It is.
It's one of the things that totally impresses me about St. Catherine, just the ownership that the community has and taking up the responsibility they have for that building and for the community.
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact of where we're located and our history. I mean, we have always felt a real commitment to the community. I don't know if you know that the Sherman Park Community Association, which is the oldest community association I know, at least in the state, so it's celebrating, I believe, 40, well, more than 40 years, because it was probably 50 years, yeah. And people from St. Catherine's were the founders of that community association.
Really?
So we have been involved throughout. I mean, you go to uh, various meetings, and you go downtown to protest opening one more bar on Center Street. You and for many years, I worked on the Sherman Park News, which was a newspaper. And there too, so many people have such a sense of commitment, and I think that if you look at our St. Catherine's mission statement, it includes being the presence of Christ in Sherman Park and beyond.
Yeah.
So there's this commitment to the community, and perhaps it's because there's always a fragility about a community where we are located, that people have to say, I'm here because I choose to be here. I'm here because the gospel says um, you reach out into your community. Father Jack once told a story about a lady that was when he was at St. Thomas, who said, aren't we blessed to be in an area where people need us? I think that's the attitude. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
that's the commitment.
that permeates like every aspect of the parish, I think.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. We've made a decision, as our little motto says, here to stay, here to serve.
Yeah,
And that's something that we truly, truly believe, that if you're here, if you're going to stay, you need to serve.
yeah.
And in serving, you stay, and you stay with the people in the community.
Is that is that always been a charism of St. Catherine's?
Well, as long as I can remember, I first came to the parish. I was a single parent with 6 kids, so I did not have a lot of um, chance to be involved. I involved in some of the school things. I was kind of keeping the society going at home, so I did not. But I always, as long as I can remember, people cared. I mean, the food pantry. Right now I can volunteer. People can't volunteer because of COVID. But the food pantry's been going well over 30 years. Our St. Vincent de Paul never stopped being active during the pandemic. They can't go visit, but they drop off necessary items right on the porch. So it's always been this sense of we are here to be the presence of Christ. It's something that I really treasure, and um, I've always felt that it was a tremendous blessing to me to be part of that.
Yeah, yeah. It is. It's a special community with a strong commitment to justice, no doubt about it. But we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. I want to ask you. Tell me first about you. I'm getting to know you, but I don't know if everyone, especially St. Sebastian's, knows you. So tell us about you. You raised 6 kids, you said.
Yes, yeah. My oldest son is just celebrated his, or will celebrate his 61st birthday, believe it or not. I can't be the mother of someone that old, but I am. And he is now in his final year to studying to be a priest in the Eastern Rite Church.
Really?
And then that's Christopher. And then Maria um, has 3 children, very busy working in print and at Quadraphics. Norlin is a professor at Texas Woman's University. Um, Joel is a musician. He lives in the Bay Area. And Renee is still a member of St. Catherine's. In fact, she was part of the cleanup, and so were her 3 boys this weekend. And Andrea has really struggled with a lot of issues, mental health issues, but she is so strong. She's been my conscience, and I don't. And mother, you could do that. So anyway, so I have been blessed that they all are very faith-filled people, and it amazes me. 5 of them graduated from Pius. One from the oldest one went to Thomas More, and I think Pius also gave them this sense of commitment to justice and to using their gifts.
Yeah.
So I was born in Chicago. I was the youngest. I'm the youngest of 5 children. My 2 older sisters died before I was born. And during one summer, my father had an accident that lost sight of his eye, lost his job. The 2 girls died, and I probably would not have been born had they lived. So I've been, I've seen people with courage throughout my life. That's been a real gift to me too. That you've seen how people look at what's happened in their lives and they say, "But we need to move on, and we need to keep going and be stronger." Mm. So, all right, I went to a great school in high school and Chicago, St. Benedict's, and we were really formed in our faith. It was a very small high school, it was a parish high school at the beginning, and we had young priests. I don't know if they thought the pastor was great at shaping these young priests, but they would tell us, just prepare, be prepared. There's going to be a Vatican. They didn't call it the Vatican Council, but there's going to be a council in the church. Oh, wow. So I was ready for Vatican II. And we really had this sense of we were the body of Christ. That was not a new image for me. And then I went to Cardinal Stritch College, and after that, taught a year in Chicago. Got married, moved to Milwaukee, and after, in those days, they did not let you teach if you were 3 months pregnant. So I had to leave teaching in Milwaukee, and then but returned after my twin daughters were about 5, and went to teach in Pewaukee. And in the meantime, before I went there, I kind of looked at the scene and I thought, you're not going to get a job in English and history these days. How about a reading? So previous to that, I had worked in a nursery school. That school that's on a corner of Sherman and Center housed a nursery school. And I really got impressed with beginning reading. So I went to be a reading teacher, finished my degree or my certificate on Friday, and I think it was Saturday morning, I got a phone call from a principal in Pewaukee and said, "How about an interview?" And he hired me then on Monday. Super. And there too, what a group of people that I worked with. And I love teaching middle school. The crazy people in middle school, I kind of fit in. And I just, we had a sense of, they called it the middle school concept, which is, the idea that when I taught reading, it wasn't just teaching like reading as such. Most of those kids know how to read, but it's reading across the content areas. Yeah. And I love that. And we, in the meantime, organized fun fairs. We organized different activities, and this all was connected to reading. So that was great. So I taught there for 21 years in Pewaukee,
That's
and
good.
great kids. I still encounter some of these kids sometimes in really strange places.
Do you really?
Yeah, yeah. One day, somebody was outside of the community center, and they were going to lay the new floor. I mean, we have a great floor in that community center. You mentioned that, I think, last week. And this guy he looked at me and he said, "Did you teach in Pewaukee?" And I said, "Sean." And he said, "Shane, but you're close." And his boss said, "They always remember the problem kids." And they were, yeah, I loved middle school kids. I really, they're willing to take a chance, and they learn. You learn that if they're negative about whatever you're doing, you have to say to yourself, could be they had a problem in the hall,
Mm,
or maybe their mom was mad at that day. You take them where they are.
yeah.
And for 20 years, I chaperoned dances. That was a ball. It was. I learned all the music of the day. Let me tell you. At one time, the kids were unhappy because I wouldn't let them play heavy metal. So they all sat down on the gym floor. And they said, "We're not moving until you let us play some heavy metal." I
In
said, "What are you going to dance to, heavy metal?"
I,
So there was always a lot of adventure.
I think there's a special place in heaven for middle school teachers.
Well, and maybe it's the crazy spot. Yeah, so then I was able to do much more at St. Catherine's after I retired. Daryl Olszewski was our parish director at the time, and he said, "Would you be one of the trustees?" And that's an important job, And then, I had been working at the food pantry before that, and I was in choir before that. I miss being in choir, but it's fun and interesting now that you can stand outside and watch other people sing. And, religious ed, I was involved in religious ed from the time I graduated from college in Chicago. Actually, it was in Skokie, which is where my parents had moved. And then here, I got much more. I was teaching the middle school group. But then when our director of the person who brought Catechesis came here, I worked really hard to keep the Catechesis at St. Catherine's, and I taught for a number of years, but then decided that there were some really good people who taught. We're blessed with some dedicated teachers. Some of these people have been teaching for 20 some years in one level, and so then I kind of became the hostess and the connector between St. Sebastian's.
Yeah.
I should mention too, John, you said people St. Sebastian's. I knew St. Sebastian's when I was 5 or 6 years old. My aunt taught at St. Sebastian's.
Really?
She was, she was one of the, what did they call them, the Lake Franciscans?
Mm,
The school sisters,
yeah.
no,
No,
of St. Francis, because the school sisters are the ones at Layton Boulevard.
no, yeah, it must be the Sisters of St. Francis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They always had OSF after their name.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
So I often think of that when I go to the church, and I think, gee, this is so cool. I mean, right here where Aunt Mary was.
Yeah, and there's a statue at St. Sebastian's of Francis that was donated from those sisters, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. They taught at Stretch, and they're the ones that started Stretch.
That's
too.
how I know them. Yeah, because
Yeah,
I spent a
yeah.
lot of time at Stritch.
Yeah.
I was interested to hear about how you've kind of been that connector for the catechesis at St. Catherine's, and I know that you've been kind of instrumental in continuing the catechesis of the Good Shepherd. Can you talk about what that is and why you think that's a good model of catechesis?
Well, it's based on Maria Montessori's concept of um, that children learn by using objects, by really being totally involved in what they're learning. So I don't know, John, have you ever had a chance to look at the atriums at St. Catherine's?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you look, and that is a real hands-on um, environment. And I've seen, I've had my grandchildren have gone through the levels, especially the beginning levels. And the children have this sense of really understanding at their level what it is, what the shepherd is, that the shepherd is a person who cares for them. And so there's, at the higher levels, there's different lessons that they learn. They do a lot on the different prophets in level 3. Level 2 has many other, so they kind of build on one level after another. And so I have felt that it was a way to have children sense that their faith is very personal. So that's one of the big reasons I've really been very supportive of it. And as I said, we have been blessed. Now this year, in fact, I just got a report from the 2 teachers of the level 1 that during this whole pandemic, they have been dropping off lessons at the homes of the children and doing Zoom lessons. And so, this is the kind of commitment that's really impressive.
Yes, no, it is. It's completely impressive. And Catechesis of the Good Shepherd also reminds me of our sacramentality. It's very tactile and physical.
Mhm.
I think that's why probably it makes so much sense for a Catholic context for learning the faith.
Yeah, very, very true. And when you talk about the sacraments, I just when you hear younger people, they're trying these different group churches, everybody's singing and all joyful, and do you miss the whole concept of the sacraments? And where have we lost the sense of the real presence in the Eucharist?
Yeah.
Somehow, Father Peter Patrick has said that he read some research that I can't even remember the number, but it was astounding number of people that do not believe in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist.
Yeah.
So is that this kind of, are they going to Mass and saying those words, but not believing those words? I don't know.
It is the
But anyway, it's
research
something that we somehow or other have need to live, and there's no other way to say it, but you have to live that belief in the real presence.
Yeah.
That's what motivates you.
Yeah. I want to ask you more directly if you can speak about your faith, because I just see you living it so well and having such commitment to it. But I wonder if you could describe or explain the articulation of your faith.
Well, as I said, from when I was young, I realized that that the fact that I was born, my mother was 41 when I was born, and I had these 2 older sisters who had died. We lived in a very, my former husband used to call it's the ghetto Catholic. We were just everybody around, all my relatives except for one of my mother's brothers. Well, she had a brother who was a priest and a sister, the one who was at Sebastian's, who was a nun. But the other of the 8 remaining children, 7 of the 8 lived within walking distance of one another. So there was this sense of real community, and the church, St. Benedict's, was the center. You just had this feeling of it was who you were. You were part of this community of faith. And also the model I had, my parents, who even with terrible losses, still had such a sense of going forward, such a sense of commitment to their faith. They were not. It was not. It was a faith that was lived. It was not a faith that was just talked about. It just was who you were. And, I think, perhaps, when things were really difficult in my life, when I was alone, and I had this, what else could you depend on? Where else can you go? That's what the scriptures say. To whom shall we go?
Yeah.
If we leave, to whom shall we go? And I really have always had, that's kept me going. It's kept me going.
Yeah.
And I love now with my children and grandchildren. even those that, may go to these other, I don't know, they're not going to mega churches, they're going to these small um, singing churches, some, praising church.
Yeah.
There still is such a sense of faith for these people. They live who they are. They live God, the principles of Christ, and I think that's what, when you talked about St. Catherine's being a social justice parish, it's two things. You cannot be a social outreach parish unless you have something within from which you can reach out. Um, Father, there was somebody who once said, "Our church windows are beautiful." And they are. They're funny, and they have these jewel tones, but it's not the light that shines in that's beautiful. It's the light that shines out into the community that makes it beautiful. That you always feel you want to grow. If you don't grow in your faith, you're dying. There's no way about it. You can't. You can either be moving forward or moving. You're not standing still. You're going to either move forward, or you're going to stand still, or fall back in your faith. And so it is. It's who I am.
Yeah, yeah. I want to talk more specifically about what you do, but I loved what you just said about the light that shines out. What do you think that what do you think St. Catherine's has been to the community, to the neighborhood that it's in? What is
Well, as I said, we were the people from St. Catherine's in the 70s started community association. Right now, people from our parish are still very involved in it. We have a sense of, when we did our cleanup, it's not just cleaning up our grounds, it's cleaning up, the community. And we're going to be going beyond St. Catherine's on next week. And it's this sense of you have to create an environment where people are their dignity is respected, where people feel welcome. When working at the food pantry, you didn't just hand out food. You gave somebody a hug. That person said, "How's your sister? How's your aunt?" That's one of the things I really miss a lot about not being able to do that kind of thing, because there were some very special people that you met over the years, and I think too they when we got involved in Common Ground, we were one of the first parishes that got involved, and we've been members of Common Ground since it started. And there's a sense there too that you take a problem and you look at it and say, what can you do about it? We had desk tables set out outside of the food pantry because Common Ground had this big initiative to get out the vote. So we made any number of phone calls to people, and we tried to register people. So it's this feeling that if you're there, that building is only we had a deacon a long time ago that said, if St. Catherine's disappeared from that corner, would it have to be rebuilt? And that's what we say. Yes, it would, because this is from which we can reach out to the community. And so we had people like that inspire. This thing. Deacon Ralph has been here. What, I think it's 35 years. He's been our deacon.
Yeah.
So this sense of real commitment. It starts with your faith, but it's not a personal faith. It has to be a faith that expands beyond you. Because face it. And you certainly had experience. If you're only doing it because of one person, that person can disappoint you.
Yeah.
I remember being in a talk where a priest said he grew up in the projects in Chicago. And he said, we had a priest that did just everything for us. And then he had the nerve to die. And I think, you have to be there and communicate what you're doing, and try to really be not just, it's not about you, and I'm so humbled to be part of this community, really. Oh wow, it's amazing. It really is amazing. And when we became part of Saint Sebastian's, we joined with Saint Sebastian's. I don't know if you know the history that Father Dick Aiken and Father Jack Hearn were friends from the seminary, and they both had this tremendous vision that they knew that there probably weren't going to be two priests for these parishes.
Yeah.
So they started us working together. We've done meetings. We've done the Tridium. So when it came to be that we did just have one priest, Father Larry, we were there. We knew that this is where we're moving. And when Blessed Trinity Parish joined us, we felt that they were bringing that same charism of really being involved in the community, and they have. I looked around when we were working on outside, and Charlie's from Blessed Trinity. He started there. He's got it that pumps us up, and he's out there on the mower. We've got a man. If you read the last Reflections of Faith, the man James Napper, he's out there. He joined the parish, and within 2 weeks he was cleaning and helping us. And that, back to Reflections of Faith, that was another gift to the parish.
Yeah.
There was a woman who asked Father Jim Wojcik, was the pastor at the time, could we put together some kind of a faith publication? And and originally it even had ads, which we discovered we couldn't do it, and then send it in as a nonprofit. It had recipes, but eventually, we're on our 129th issue. So all these years, people have been able to express their faith. And, sometimes people don't necessarily like what somebody says. They might think it's, there are some people who have left because they think we're too social justice minded. And, that's that balance too.
Yeah.
Keeping the core of your faith and being able to reach out from that faith, but that reaching out has to come from the core. When you reflect on your faith, it has to get deeper.
That's the Reflections of Faith publication, right?
I don't know if you read the recent one. The recent one we had, I had. It's hard sometimes to get articles, and sometimes I have to prod people. I'm using that word rather than nag. And so I was working this recent one, and I thought, okay, form before, and people. I had one person get angry at me because they thought I was talking about throwing out things in the church, reforming the church, and there's a lot of images of forming and reforming. So I thought, what about parenting? Every parent has to form an idea how they're going to do it, but each kid makes you reform it. Okay. You certainly have had that experience, John.
Yes,
and so I wrote Maria Melendez, whose kids go to St. Sebastian's, and they were there working on Saturday, very involved at St. Catherine's. And Maria said, and she just said, I've had such a busy day week. What about if Eliana writes? Well, Eliana has written before, because I don't know if that's another story, but sometime I'll tell you about Eliana and that family's involvement in raising vegetables. But anyway, Eliana wrote about what it was like to be an 8th grader, not the kind of 8th grade life she had. And it was just, she's a great writer, but it was so cool because it was a vehicle for her to express herself. It was a way for people to look at something from a different point of view, not just the adult point of view. And her mom said, she's thinking about a new article for next one. So great, So that, we try to get people to express what they want to say. And as I said, the themes kind of guide you, but they aren't confining. Some people can write about something else. So
what's the upcoming one on?
Simplicity.
Simplicity. Very good.
We've had some some issues that some people have felt were kind of, because we had challenging titles, themes. And I thought, it all boils down to simply following your faith.
Yeah.
It's simply following your faith.
Yeah.
It's not something way out there. You're not a firebrand. You are simply following your faith. So it's simplicity.
Yeah.
And we've had, fortunately, and over the years, sometimes we've had some people from St. Sebastian's writing for them, and I certainly would hope we do that again. There are a lot of people I got to know through Mass and through the scripture studies that we had for about 5 years.
Yeah, we're gonna get those going again too.
Good.
I just wanted to give a special shout out to Ian Melendez making his first communion in St. Catherine's this weekend. So
yes,
that's good.
yes, oh yes, he is, and it was really sweet because they were at Mass and they all came up, and Ian came with his hands across his chest, and I was watching because I looked at Father Larry said something to him, and then he kind of responded and he left, and with a smile, his eyes were smiling. So I asked Father Larry, what did you say to Ian? He said, well, I knew he was about ready to receive First Eucharist, so I asked him when it was going to be, and I told him how excited it was.
Oh.
I've known Matt and Maria since before they were married. So, and one time I was even their honorary grandmother when they had Grandparents' Day because both their grandparents were out of town. I'll tell you, at St. Sebastian's. It was a trip.
Well, that is excellent. That's great.
Yeah.
They're a wonderful family.
Yeah.
My last question for you is, as you think about the future, what do you hope for, Bernadette?
Well, in our country, I hope that people can grow to understand one another. I hope that people will listen to one another and to really care about one another. The division is just distressed me. I mean, I had to go on high blood pressure pills because I'm not joking. I did, as it was all the divisiveness and the sense of the values that we had seem to be frittered away. So I hope that we can open our hearts to listen and to try to grow, in goodness. For our parish, I hope we continue to strengthen one another. I hope that we can live out our mission as best, as we are, and grow as far as numbers. But it's always been about quality and not just quantity. So, but I think hope is when I look for the future, that's the main word, hope. Without hope for anything, how can you go on? How would you face the day if you didn't hope that it was a little better day than before? Or it was that you could do something that day that would make a difference. I don't know how you could move forward.
Yeah.
That's the future.
Well, very well said, especially appropriate for the Easter season. So thank you for that.
Yes, yeah.
Bernadette, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me today.
Well, thank you for being so patient, John.
It's all good.
Take care.
Thank you. Take care also. Bye-bye.